Cool. Sweet. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sweet. Chat, can you guys hear both of us? Let us know if you can hear both of us. But I think we should be good. What is up, guys? So we got some people in the chat. Yeah, looks like they can hear us.
All right, perfect.
Cool. Sweet. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. And also shout out to HD for joining the stream as well. We're just gonna go ahead and just get started with it. This is gonna be pretty chill and informal, like most of my live streams. So, and it's actually the first time I'm having HD on my channel. Um, I haven't had him ever, but he's had me like multiple times on his channel. So we'll see. Are y'all good at your end, HD?
Yeah, that thing. My curtain was driving me how I was looking at it through your deal.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, so like I said, like he's had me multiple times on his channel, but like I've never had him on my channel like ever. So like definitely glad to have him on here. So I feel like I can't do your intro any justice. So like I would just say you should just go ahead and introduce yourself. Take as much time as you want. So let's get into it.
Yeah, man. I'm on the Young Masters channel. That's what I refer to him as a lot. But for those that don't know me, my name is Henri. I go by HD, or people like to call me like Textual Chatter a lot. That's just my YouTube name. I'm the host of the Textual Talk podcast. I've been in IT and then cybersecurity like the last 6 years. So like I'm going on like 10 years of experience overall just in my career. And I'm also a career coach. That's kind of like me spread all the way out. And then a brief intro about like kind of like my career background is I started off in help desk, then I did some knock work, finally got a SOC role, did SOC for what, about 4 years, going almost 5 years. Moved on to like the financial sector. So my last two companies have been in the financial sector. I did IR, incident response management, and now I'm doing like some GRC stuff for my current company. And yeah, that's pretty much about it about me, like the rundown without like talking your ears off.
Cool. Yeah, and this is like one of the reasons why I wanted to have HD on the channel because like he's someone that has like a lot more experience than I do. I mean, also like around like most people that are in my my experience group, like 0 to 2 years, 3 years, but like someone like you with like way more years of experience. I feel like it's also valuable to have like your insight on cybersecurity as someone who has been in the field way longer and has seen like different things and stuff like that. So I think before we go into all of that, we should actually talk about like how we met, which is actually a pretty interesting story. I feel like it was like in 2020.
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna pull it up on LinkedIn while you're talking. I want to see if I can actually find like the exact message.
yeah, so like we met online actually, right? So this was like around the period where I was like studying for my A plus, I think. And I think I saw him. We connected either on LinkedIn or I watched your video on YouTube, and then we eventually started talking on LinkedIn. And I reached out to you, and I was like, "Hey, I'm studying for certification, something like that, and like all of that." And like I was just asking for advice, pretty much, and that's like how we connected. And then we started like just like communicating back and forth, and that's kind of how our mentor mentee relationship started. But do you want to like give your own side of the story, like how it happened?
Yeah, I got the exact date. It was July 31st, 2020, and you sent me a message, and I sent back, and then I think around the time I went to your profile, because then one of the other questions I asked you was like, how much luck have you had with getting interviews for internships?
Yeah.
Because a little backstory here, guys. When he reached out to me, it was kind of right before I started turn my company into something that's actual legitimate company. Before that, I had been helping people um, throughout their careers and just helping them, when I could. But he was probably one of the first people that I put together like some real actionable advice and we saw help him out, start his career. That's what I think it was late that summer, early fall, one or two.
But it
Uh,
looks like someone said your mic is static or something like that. There's like some static sound in your mic.
mm, Let me see how it sounds.
It's good, but like there's like some static behind it. Like maybe like a wire issue or something.
Um, it's showing good for me, but let me do something.
All
I
right.
can do. All right, and then let me go to loop back real quick, and then I can hear myself and see if I can hear what y'all hear.
Oh yeah, it's much better now.
Oh, really? Okay, perfect, perfect. So what did they ask the chat? What they didn't hear me say?
Yeah, so I think we should just start from like when I reached out to you. I think that's kind of where it started.
Okay, yeah. So you reached out to me like July 31st, 2020, with a thoughtful message, and I respond. I mean, replied. I'm sorry. And then I want to say I went to your page and I kind of saw what you were doing, and that's when I came back and said, hey, how easy has it been for you to currently get interviews? And you said, bunch of help desk positions, no luck. Then I asked you, did you ask them, why they went with somebody else? And you said you didn't. And so I'm not going to, it's a long back and forth, but through our conversation is when we actually just started talking more and more. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into that, but it's been a while. But what drew me to Dayspring was the fact that he was doing a lot of stuff without asking me what he should do. I mean, that's one of the things I talk to people who potentially want to be like a mentee of mine. It's kind of like, I'm so busy. You have to kind of show me why it would be, worth my time to help invest in you. And for some that's listening, they may see that as kind of being harsh, but you have to think about it like everybody's like, I work full time, doing content. I have a family. I have a lot of stuff going on. So I don't have a lot of time if you're not like a client for you to ask me questions 24/7 and me try to answer them. Whereas if you're figuring stuff out on your own and just coming through and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or "Can you review this?" or "I got something coming up. How should I prepare for that?" Or like some along those lines, I can help you with that. But if I have to give you step by step, I can't do that. And I never had to give day step by step. Like most of the time, I was always asking them, "Oh, what you working on?" "Oh, I'm working on this, sir. Oh, I'm working on this, sir. Oh, I'm working on this lab or this walkthrough." And you see all the stuff he put into his YouTube. So I never really had to worry about doing all the extra stuff with him.
Yeah, I think that's like valuable insight from your perspective. Like, a lot of times when I give people advice on like mentorship, because I think there's a lot of value in mentorship. You know, I can only like give them like advice or from my own perspective as someone who is the mentee. But I think it's also good from like the mentor's perspective to give advice on like this is why the mentor mentee relationship worked because I didn't necessarily have to say like hold your hand to do anything or like necessarily say go do this or do that, right? Being a mentee who is able to like take initiative and do stuff on your own makes the mentor mentee relationship a lot more valuable in the sense that it can easily sync and easily flow, and like you don't have to, there's not much effort being exerted on the mentor side to the point of exhaustion, and the mentee is also able to get much value from the relationship as well. But just to add to that, what do you in your perspective, what do you think? What is the importance of like that mentor mentee relationship, right? So you already talked about how the relationship worked and why it worked, but also in your perspective and how my career is grown in the last few years ever since we've had like that relationship. What do you think? Is why do you think like that relationship was important to like my growth and also like helping me really navigate the industry I in the way I did, especially having like mentorship from someone like you who had more experience.
Uh, I think it's critical because it helps you avoid the pitfalls like people like me and other people, have went through when they didn't have a mentor in the early stages of their career. Like for example, when you talking about that first role that you got, and I was like, man, that's kind of low. But I was like, you know what? Take it and just get the money and experience, and we'll figure it out later, which we end up doing. But it's just even one of those things of not knowing how to navigate that because now I'm exposed to so many different things. I can come in and tell you like if a job offer you this, hey man, they offer me this. What you think? I'll be like, if that's the first offer, ask for this, get this, try to negotiate this, try to go for that, which a lot of us, didn't have. And I think also a benefit of being a mentor is not only helping you, but when you have a young person that's hungry, it helps you stay motivated as well. So I've always told Dayspring and for another person that's in cybersecurity as well, Tayo and Tech is like they're younger than me, but I've always been inspired by watching them grind because it's always made me grind. Now, whether we're doing the same things or not is different, but the fact that iron sharpens iron. I mean, that's a cliche saying, but it's actually true. If you look at people's probably like closest, like the people that's closest to them, you'll kind of see a reflection of them as well. And so that's why it is important to actually, and it might be a question I might ask you in a little bit, is about like as you keep on succeeding, like how that circle starts to change if the other people aren't, willing to put in the work to come with you, they get left behind.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's like a mutually beneficial relationship because like as much as I am, getting from you, like you're also like in your own way benefiting from the relationship, which is also great. I don't think people want to be in like relationships whereby one person just keeps taking, and the other person keeps getting without, any benefits to both parties. But that's definitely great to hear from a perspective. So let's actually go into your journey to like where you are right now, because like, in comparison to so many other people, especially, my subscribers and many people that I interact with, you have a lot more experience, right? We're not talking about 2 years, we're not talking about 5 years, like we're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 years of experience. So how has that journey been from like, the very start? How did you get in? A matter of fact, if we can actually start from like talking about, from your college experience, like, because I know on your channel you've talked about how you didn't even know much about cybersecurity, like you started as a architecture major or something like that. So like
Yeah.
if you can start from like that, that origin up until how you got in, the help desk situation, and also like navigating and moving forward, to like becoming a threat analyst and then eventually becoming like, a manager and VP. Can you go over like that story from the start to up to where you are right now?
Yeah, sure thing. I typically like to say like how everything is now with the internet that really didn't exist when I was in school. So we even go back. I graduated high school in 2010. So if you go from 2006 to 2010, nobody was really talking about security. I mean, you kind of knew about IT, but even in the city where I'm from, first of all, I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. So even from there wasn't a lot of opportunities for that. So therefore, that's not something that pushed a lot on the kids. I took wood shop and I took welding for my electives in school. So I was like, And even to this day, I very much love looking at buildings, houses, how they're made, anything. Like I try to look for different styles and what they, resemble. So I thought, I like this type of stuff. Let me try to be an architect. Well, I got the architecture program, visited the studio, and realized I'm not as talented as these guys, and I'm never going to be as talented as these guys because in order to be an architect, you had to take a class called drafting. And if you didn't even know how to draw already, you had to do some pre-drafting stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time and learn all this stuff for something these guys are already naturally skilled at. On top of back then, when I looked at like the starting salary for an architect, it wasn't that high. And so I was like, for the amount of work I'm going to put in school, I don't think this is going to benefit me that much. So I went to the College of Business and I looked at these. It was like a chart. I put it on like my the video that I have, like the second video on my channel ever, like from 2 years ago, about why I chose my major. And it's this chart that shows the typical salaries you could expect, like once you get to like senior level into your career. I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. Coming from a blue collar family who probably at the time together probably never made like $50,000. I was like, oh, this is a lot. So I was like, I'm definitely gonna go do this, and went through that. Now I will say I've been giving my major a lot of flack, and it's only because they put you in all these different classes, but don't steer you in a certain direction.
Right.
Like CIS had me do programming classes, which the programming classes were bad because they were teaching us Visual Basic when the world was asking for like Java and Python and everything else. So it really was, not beneficial. They should have stole some programming classes from the computer science class. We had to do a database class, system analysis and design, networking. And then I chose this forensic cybersecurity class. I think by credits, I either was almost a senior or a senior. And that's when I kind of got open to like, this is interesting. It's kind of like the stuff that you see on CSI. Like,
Yeah.
the simple lab of we put something on a USB drive, deleted it, and then we went back and recovered it. And I was like, dang, nothing you delete is really gone.
Right.
I want you guys to stick with that because nothing you delete is really gone. Um, so going from that, I think the summer going into like my last quarter of going to Louisiana Tech, I met this guy. At the time, he was talking to my cousin, and he was in the Air Force. So everybody knows like the Air Force people and pretty much military people, if they have like a civilian government job, they gotta get these certifications because there's a certain standard in the military to help you get paid. So he was like, "Yeah, you should get the Security Plus." I didn't know anything about certs until that time. I went and I'll tell you guys this. I was working at I worked in Target when I wasn't in school. And at the time I was getting $7.75 an hour. Never got 40 hours a week unless it was Thanksgiving week or like the 2 weeks in Christmas when I would work when I was in school. Other than that, I never really got 40 hours for them. So I didn't really have that much money at my disposal. But luckily I had saved some money from one of my refund checks. And I had the money to take the test. I think that at the time the test was like $300.
Yeah.
I studied for the Sec Plus. I finished that big book. That book was like huge.
Yeah.
I finished that book about a week, but I knew after a week I wasn't ready to take it. So
that's pretty fast though.
Well, I was dedicated. I said every day. I said every day when I got off work, I think I said I was going to read 50 to 100 pages. And for people who really, some people know based on listening maybe to my podcast a couple of times, I don't read as much as I used to, but growing up, I was an avid reader. I did accelerated reading. I always read. Sometimes I read 3 books in a week. So that's something I get from my mom. I'm very good at reading when I actually sit down and read something I'm interested in. But I was going through some of the tests and realizing I wasn't scoring as high as I wanted to. So I put the test back off for like a couple of weeks. Actually, Pearson tried to not let me reschedule because I knew I rescheduled, but for whatever reason in my browser, it messed up. But I took a screenshot of my history and said, no, right here is when I tried to reschedule it and messed up. So they let me do that. And so once I got that confirmed, all I did was focused on all the stuff I was getting wrong, which eventually, helped me go take the test. And I passed the test decently to fail like all the what are the
performance-based questions?
Yeah, because so at that time, for people who don't know, this is how long ago. I think I took Security Plus when it was like 301. It came with a disc in the book. My laptop at the time, the disk drive didn't work. I had an external Samsung disk drive player, and it just would never work with the labs. It's probably because of limitations. Like I finished school with a crappy like Acer laptop, but I got through it. It did what I needed to do. But I could never do those lab things, so I didn't know them. So I didn't even bother to try to get them right when it came to the test. So I passed the test. I did that, and so boom, I'm like, oh yeah, I got my Security Plus. So I'm like, if not, I might have been the only person going back into school with the actual certification and still can get an internship and still can get a security job.
So this was like senior year, right?
This is 2013. So this is the summer of 2013 going into the fall of 2013. I graduated undergrad November 2013.
Got you.
And so when I'm having consultations with you all or I'm on podcast telling you, hey, that's certain, I'm going to help you get a job, I lived it. So it's not me just talking or just hating on certs. I'm trying to tell you, hey, they have a business model. They want you to pay to get the cert. Yes, the cert is beneficial, it's foundational, but when I start asking people questions on like the jobs they want to do, they can't answer them because the cert doesn't show that. The cert just ABC or in this type of way come to you and wants you to answer. And that's pretty much what you get out of that.
Yeah, I was literally talking about that in my live stream yesterday, and we'll get more into certifications after like you talk about this. But like like with the availability of new certifications that are more hands-on and practical, I feel like you find there's more value in doing those than the multiple choice ones that are just like testing your ability to like memorize concepts rather than your ability to actually perform skill-based tasks that you're going to be doing as a professional in the field.
Man, definitely. I mean, I have a whole new strategy for that. I mean, that wasn't bad advice, but you have to sometimes look at who gives you the advice and see if they're doing, what you want to do. So at that time, the person who gave me the advice wasn't doing a security job, but he knew about the
Right.
certifications. So I've always been thankful for that cert, you know, and that getting that cert that fast actually helped him. He was like in ways a mentor to me. He was always telling me different things as far as like, hey, if you get your first entry level role, don't take a salary less than this. It feels a security role. But if we get back to the story, I went back to school, had my Sec Plus, but I couldn't get a job. I almost came close to getting a job for CenturyLink going into like the fall of my last quarter, but I believe they decided to pass on me because I didn't have a vehicle at the time. But I was telling them, hey, I'll get there. Backstory on that was CenturyLink's headquarters was in Monroe, Louisiana. My school was in Ruston, so it was only like 30, 40 minutes away. But not having a vehicle made that tough. And I had all my provisions. I was going to get down and call my uncle. Say, hey, if I get this job, you think you help me get a vehicle? I'll pay the money back. Because by the time people knew I was good for what I said I was going to do. But that didn't work.
Back then, there was like no Uber or Lyft or anything like that.
Nah, that was see this is why, and I'm also a person. It's like I'm 30, but sometimes I probably feel like in my mind I'm 35 or 40,
right?
Because of my interaction with like people younger than me that complain, and I'm like, I feel like the people who looked at us when we used to complain, it's like y'all have it way better than we had. Like back in the day, one of AWS, and well, you didn't know about AWS or Azure or GCP. People's actually going to try to go buy real hardware, sitting up making their own networks in their home labs.
Yeah.
That's how much gatekeeping it was then. Now, I mean, as long as you put your billing alerts on and turn your stuff off, you could be fine. You can demonstrate all that, make you a lab, draw it up in Visio, and present all the stuff in your interviews. You couldn't do that back then. Right. I had lost out on one internship to a very good friend of mine who she probably ain't watching this, but she's going to come on the podcast soon. I don't care how shy she is. But other than that, I didn't have a lot of opportunities. Like, graduated school, went back to Target, applying to everything like wire technician job, anything that had to do with computers. I was just applying because, I mean, all my resume had back on it then was like just my related coursework and what I had did at my IT job in the College of Business, and also my Target job. And I should have leaned on. So my boss at the College of Business, he pretty much designed the whole network for the College of Business. He had like all these certs. Like, that's going to be an interview you guys tune into whenever I can get him on. Like, a wealth of knowledge. He's probably been doing this with 30 years. Like, he on like 30, 40 years professor Black Ops level, like with the knowledge when it comes to doing this. And I probably should have leaned on him some more to figure out what I need to do to make myself more attractive when I'm applying to jobs.
Right. So what was the big break that helped you get that first position after like all of this stuff was happening and like you weren't getting any like major leads on any position?
Yeah, so I don't know if I applied on Indeed or my resume is on Indeed, but a recruiter from Apex hit me up about a potential government contract coming to Shreveport Bossier. And I didn't know what it's going to be. As I knew it had to do with computers and everything. And they like my background. They told me what the pay would be. And for transparency's purposes, I've told this story many times, but pay was $17 an hour. And that was a big step up for me from $7.75. And I was like, yeah. So they prepped me on an interview. I memorized the questions. I answered them well. Because I'm also tell you guys, it's going through school and going through the interview let me know I didn't know what I needed to know to actually really go do a job somewhere, to be truthful. Got the job. It took about 2 or 3 months to get my interim security clearance. So I actually do have like 2 security clearances. They're secret, DHS level ones? Yeah, just secret level. And we found out it was help desk. Like in training, we found out we're gonna be talking on the phone. And I was freaking out. I was like, what? Man, I don't want to talk on the phone. But just, I don't know, man. That probably is like the scariest thing of like, hey, my first job, not feeling, being on contract until you come over full time, you could be let go at any time. Like I real deal fell asleep one time in training for that, but that's another story of like why I did that. I want to have that manager on my show one day too. I've asked her about it, so I got to get her on so we can laugh at that together. But that job really showed me a lot, just my people skills, typing, organization, documentation, even knowing like certain services that people that are help desk will use. That some people just going straight, not like touching help desk, going to a cybersecurity role may not know, and why they may have some, I'll say, investigation biases or just some ignorance towards the investigation, just not knowing some things that people who did a little bit more early on in their career know. I think that job for that.
Got you. So after that job, I guess working in IT, like how did you transition into security? Like what was the path that you used to like get from IT into security, and like how was that journey like? Was it like easy, or was it like you had to like jump through many hoops to eventually get that first security role?
Hard and many hoops because I didn't have a strategy.
Looks
Hard
like
and
your
many
sound
hoops
is
because I didn't have a
static
strategy.
again.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Like
Computer
why.
or what.
I don't know if it's the computer or what.
Anything else that's in the background.
Quit anything else that's in the
Sounds
background.
good on my end. Is it still static?
Sounds good on my end. Is it still static and on your end?
Yeah, it's still static on my end.
What about now?
All right, what about now?
It's still static.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's going back.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's good now.
Yeah, I just keep on having to switch inputs, I guess. But
Yeah, there it is.
it was hard, honestly, because of no path. The same person who's talking about Sec Plus is the one that said, "Hey, I should get the CEH." Now, anybody knows that the CEH is first of all, the first mistake I made, and I think me and you talked about this. I think you might have talked about this before too when you first started for A plus, maybe. But I was studying for the wrong version of CEH.
Yeah.
So I took a CEH of where the stuff I studied wasn't on the test, and I failed it. And so I wasted $500. I had to borrow money from him to take the test.
Yikes.
Because at the time I didn't have $500 laying
Right.
around to take a certification, which is why I always tell people you can sometimes ease up off the certification because it can get expensive and it's not going to necessarily get you where you want to go sometimes.
Right.
I would really say what helped me in my journey was moving to Dallas.
Mm.
In all honesty, I knew that every time I would search for jobs, I was like, Dallas has way more. I thought I was going to go in 2015. Funny that you got the internship with Intel. Well, you turned it down.
Yeah.
In 2015, I was going to get this job with Intel. It's like some type of service desk analyst type of role with them.
Mhm.
That was going to be, I think, in Dallas area or whatever. But for whatever reason, it didn't pan through. The recruiter started replying. I just took it as, hey, it's not my time.
Right.
But 2016 came around and I had some different interviews and interviewed with this company at Income for 2 roles. One a security role and then one their knock role. So in my mind, I said I had the foresight to say, you know what? This knock role isn't just that much more pay than me having from a help desk, but if I get out there, I know I could find and land what I want to land.
Right.
And so that's what I did. So I moved to Dallas in June of 2016. By March of 2017, I was starting my first cybersecurity role.
Mm.
And only the backstory behind that was, and this is critical sometimes, guys. When you find companies you want to work at, try to join their talent community because a lot of times they'll send you updates about job openings
Yeah.
or virtual career fairs, you name it. So I actually joined Intel's talent community, and I got an email that was saying that, hey, we're having a job fair at our Plano location, and if you want to come, sign up. So I signed up, and before I signed up, I actually talked to the person that's in charge. Said, hey, would they be hiring for security roles there? She said, yeah. So I signed up, printed my resume out, got a bad haircut by a barber. That was my first time getting my haircut in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I just knew when I walked in, he was gonna mess my hair up. So
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? Right
What?
before my Intel interview, I got a bad haircut and I had to like shave all of my hair off.
Man, I didn't know it was messed up. So I really started looking in the mirror. I still got them pictures from when that dude messed my hair up. I didn't get a haircut for a while to kind of let my already line kind of grow. I already got a
Yeah.
big forehead, so I can't have a messed up, line. Is
Yeah.
the static coming back?
A tiny bit.
It might be this cord because I hear it in my thing. I don't know, or it might be this. But this probably
You're good.
switch inputs. Okay. So I went there, talked to one of the managers there, and let's see, what was his name? Eric Bowerman. That was his name. Handed my
Right.
resume. He must have liked it.
Oh yeah, the static is back again.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's going on. All right, I turned this off. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you,
All
but
right. Do you hear any static?
yeah, it's still there.
Man, I don't know. What's this? It never does this when I'm recording in Riverside, so I don't know. I got to get me a XLR output. That's probably what'll
Oh,
fix
is it
this.
USB?
Yeah, it's just a USB. Let me see if I unplug it and plug it back up. What'll happen?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
All right, I unplugged it and plugged it back up. The IT thing, so hopefully that helped it out.
Sweet.
So where we go to that. So the brief timeline was that career fair was like December 2016.
Hmm.
My first interview late December, like right after Christmas. I followed up with that manager. He was like, "Man, I don't know what happened." And then right after the follow up, about a week later, the guy that would be my manager asked me, could I come meet him at the panel location? And we talked.
Right.
He said, "When could I start?" And I was like, "Today." And that's really what started like the cybersecurity portion of my career. So sometimes I do tell people like it's hard work, luck, skill, determination. It's like a lot of things. Like it's a lot of little things that go into like sometimes what starts your career, like being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that you learn early on is what makes you later on in your career. So I wouldn't really go back, for any of these moments.
Hmm. Cool. So another thing I wanted to, I was gonna talk about like making a difference at like organizations you work at, which I think is something that I kind of noticed when we worked together, and we're gonna talk
Mhm.
about that in a bit. But before we go into that, can we talk about like certifications and experience? Because that's something that is like is always controversial, and like as someone who has taken certifications, has experience, and also deals with people like with consultations and like career advice with your clients, like what is your take on like certifications in general, and also like building experience either like before you get the job or also while you're in the job, like from your perspective of like dealing with people in general, and also like in your career so far, what are your thoughts on certifications in general?
Yeah, I think it's tailored based on whoever I'm talking to, if that makes any sense. Like some people, I'll say, okay, you may need to do this, this, and this. Like far as let's say some people they want to be SOC analysts. I'll say, okay, cool. I've switched up a couple of times and told them, hey, well, do security plus and then try to do blue team level one and then maybe get an entry level cloud certification and don't go past that just to give them, a good foundation, and then we can build up upon everything else. And then
Right.
there's some people who want to go to different facets of cybersecurity where they have, the background of like I work with people in banking who did like audits and stuff like that. And I'll say, well, you could possibly get security plus you don't necessarily need it. You might need to get CISA just for auditing purposes and moving into more of a GRC focused role. I was like,
Mhm.
once you get that GRC experience, then you can pivot into a little bit something more technical if you want to. For the people with no experience, I'm saying, okay, while we're doing all this stuff, you need to start making some labs and making them meaningful. Like, so I see this a lot sometimes. Somebody will go say, well, I did all this try hack me and cyber stuff, which is fine, but they're not actually like projects. They're like walkthrough labs where you can just speed through them and don't really show you nothing because it's not sticking.
Mhm.
like I would say who has some good stuff right now, and this is a shameless plug. Maybe I can get a affiliate deal with them or something. But I like a lot of TCM stuff right now. Like I told you recently that I had their malware analysis course because there's like on
Yeah.
sale for $1. But I like the instructor, the fact that you're actually learning while he's talking about why to do the stuff. Like the some of the labs where it's like nobody instructing you and you just reading the instructions. I don't think they're that beneficial
Hmm.
in my experience because I did a lot of them where I'm doing it, but they don't stick.
Right.
And so one thing you can also do is with all these different labs, you learn, say, okay, you learn these different things in cyber or whatever, right? Now do your own where you're piecing everything together. So you you learn how to use Splunk sometime in cyber. Stand up your own Splunk instance.
Hmm.
Um, Set up a ticketing tool like the Hive or something like that. Get you some logs and just work on your own investigation and make your write up, something like that. So you might not have the experience, but when it comes to an interview, a lot of times when we interview for roles, we're looking for that passion and that person that seems interested in the role. That
Right.
little part of you doing your own due diligence outside of the job hours means a lot. Like you know how many times I've been asked on the interview, "Hey, do you have a home lab?" Like they ask that a lot. Do you have a home lab? Oh, how do you stay up to date with security news? How do you learn this? What's the
Looks
most
like
recent?
the static is back again.
Man, I don't know what's going on. I'm blaming Restream. Let me close. Let me close anything out that could be doing static.
Okay, I'll just put you on mute and then I'll answer some questions and bring you back in a sec. All right, let's see what questions we have. So Quantum says, would you suggest labs be prioritized as hands-on over CompTIA certs? I guess I'd say it depends on like what kind of labs you're doing. So like if you're building your own labs and like doing labs in that relate to like what kind of skills or positions or things you want to do like when you become a professional, then like I would think like they might have priority. Definitely over CompTIA certifications, except if like you're looking to just gain like the fundamental knowledge like of networking or like basic security stuff. So but yeah, like Kev said, like home labs do help. Um, and someone said here you can make a lot of free labs. Yeah, it's not a course. It's like a series of videos. I don't have any courses, but yeah, I do have some videos on like making labs and stuff like that. Um, but HD, are you good? Are you good now?
Let's see.
All right, looks like you're good.
Yeah, I took a lot of those extra effects off in the settings, so maybe that was having something to do with my sound because I didn't really need all those gain control and crap. So maybe,
Got you.
hopefully that helps out, guys.
Cool, cool. Yeah, but you were talking about certifications and like how you advise people.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, let me get back to what I was talking about. Just trying to combine things. Like for example, one things I did a shout out to what's his name? Is it Josh Matacor? Is that how you say his
Yeah,
name?
Judge by the core. Yeah.
I did his Sentinel lab, right? And
Hmm.
so I said, okay, cool. The difference between me and everybody else is I know how these things work. So I was like, let me get some threat feeds in here. So one of the things I was gonna do a walkthrough, but I set up really you could do it easy with Azure and GitLab. You can like do everything in one push, like from GitHub, and it'll push it right through to your thing. But I was gonna set up some threat feeds or whatever, right? Now the person who's not me doesn't know about other, they'll just stop right there. So it's like doing your research and really talking to people that do the jobs you want to do to see what you should learn, what you should focus, what would a real day to day look like, what would you use to do your job, and then you could research how to do some of those things and start doing them on your own. And another reason why Dave's successful and always going to be successful is he always documents his journey. He's always documenting. He has a blog too, along with his YouTube. And I tell people to do the blog part because not just to brand yourself, but the more you get down to typing this stuff out and talking about it, when it comes to the actual interview, you're gonna be, remembering and taking in the information way better, opposed to if you just never touch it again, you're gonna forget. Oh, I think I used this and that. But if you're talking about the tools you just lose, when they ask you, "Oh, what did you use this for?" You say, "Well, I got a blog," and you remember what you wrote in your blog, and you could talk about it. So that's
Hmm.
one of the reasons, like getting you comfortable about the things you're learning, because that's hard for somebody to do, to go from not doing the stuff to do it. So I try to tell people to type and post as much as they can to get familiar and ease of talking about things.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to bring up was like how you're able to like get into an organization and like make a difference and make your work known and stuff like that, because that was something that I know, because we worked together, not for long, but at my previous role, and like that was definitely something that you were known for, like the impact you made as a threat analyst there, and also a senior and also a lead threat analyst, like while you were there, like that was definitely something that I try to learn from you. I try to like pick from you, because like getting to an organization is different. Getting an organization and keeping a job and just going through the motions is like way different from like going in there, making an impact, and actually like leaving your mark in that organization, right? So like, can you talk about how like that experience was? So like getting into the organization, things you did to make an impact, and also like how that affected your career from there on moving forward.
Yeah, some of this stuff is actually talked about in my Adventure Cybersecurity course on LinkedIn. If you haven't checked it out, please go check it out on LinkedIn.
Yes, definitely. I'll drop that link in the chat.
Yeah, it's another link I think I have. It's like affiliate link. Like they don't have LinkedIn, they can get it for like 30 days for free. It
Yeah, I
helps me
got it
out a lot.
from your home website.
Okay, it should post it. But yeah, no, I mean, so the mindset behind that was like before I
Wait, one
started.
second. Your static is back again.
Man,
I don't want that to affect the.
I need to. I'm gonna turn on YouTube, look at the sound, and see how it's sounding to you guys.
Cool, cool. But I'll drop the link to the LinkedIn course in the chat in a second.
Let me see. I wonder if I try to join this from Google Chrome, will I have the same issue. What you think? I'm on Firefox.
I'm on Firefox as well, but maybe Chrome might be different.
I think
I feel like
Firefox.
it. I feel like it might be like a like an internet thing. I don't know.
It could be internet, but I think it might just be. I don't know. It just might be the day that computers are being computers at this point.
Yeah. Do you wanna leave and rejoin? Maybe that might work.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to close my browser and then rejoin. I'll be right
All
back,
right, cool,
guys.
cool. I'll just answer questions while you're gone. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. But I'll go ahead and answer some of the questions we have in here. So, if someone were to be in cybersecurity as your cloud security engineer side, wouldn't it be better to focus on Microsoft security certs? I mean, yeah, if you're working in like Azure environments and like that kind of thing, maybe like working with like Microsoft 365 or O365, then definitely like focusing on those certifications might be worth it. But also like doing projects around them. There's a ton of like Azure or Microsoft projects out there. I know GPS has a bunch of like Azure projects on her channel. I mean, also different recommendations as well. So I'll definitely check that out. How do you guys handle eye strain from looking at the screen for long periods? Well, I use a blue light blocking glasses. It's right here. So yeah, I try to wear this like as much as I can, especially like when I have like my blinds down or like my or like it's late at night or early in the morning and it's not as bright. I typically just wear it so that I avoid like strain on my eyes and stuff like that. So, how do you feel about working in the SOC? Actually, like I would also want HT to answer this question. So I will start this question and we'll come back to this question. Um, you get an overhead monitor light, it helps a lot. Yes, I think those are pretty good. My friend has recommended that to me. I need to get one of those. I think those are helpful too because it's not like the light on your screen just directly just like burning your eyes. So definitely ups on degree in information system. Are you asking for thoughts on that? Can you clarify? Also, is A plus necessary or would it just make Sec plus easier? Necessary? I don't think so. But we can get back into that. Looks like HD's back, so I'll bring him into the stream. Let's see.
All right, let's see how I sound, y'all.
Yeah, sounds good to me, guys. Let me know how it sounds in the chat. But I think
All
it's
right,
good now.
cool. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Where were we?
We were talking about like
Oh,
making
work,
an
work,
impact
work.
in
I
the
remember.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, so starting at Optiv, I was coming off a layoff, man. So I had a different mindset of like, I'm gonna like get here and kill it. Like whatever I didn't do that I didn't know to do. Like, and also it was like the foundation that I got from McAfee was very low. So I was also worried. It's like, man, how good am I gonna do? Like pretty much Optiv was kind of like how I figured out like I was better than I thought I was
Mhm.
compared to minimal that I did at the previous job. And it was a job where if all things are equal, then I'm going to succeed, which I've done since then. And for me, to make an impact, it's just like noticing what type of problems you can help fix.
Mhm.
Um, things that you notice, like things I had noticed from day one that we were still fixing, even when you started. As stuff got started getting better. Like, I mean, we had automation then it's kind of like we stopped using Phantom, then we started, and then moved to XOR. But even some of the things that we did with XOR, even before that, some of the processes, some of the playbooks, like when I was able to actually help with like a lot of playbooks, some of the signals they had, like in CrowdStrike and Tanium, um, the correlation rules, all those different things, like it was all for the benefit of the team.
Yeah.
It kind of put me once I started moving to the different level, like what you probably don't know is before all the other people were level twos, it was like me by myself. So it was kind of like it was me and then everybody else, and then eventually the other a couple of other people became level two, which
Got
was
it.
fine with me. I didn't ever really care about the title part, but it kind of put a lot on me, like, oh, well, talk to this person or that person about doing these things or whatever. But I felt like I was really chill. Like I never really just had to go in on somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
um, but nah, man, that job, like, it was pretty cool. Like I always talk about like probably being like the best place I worked at. Like unlimited PTO, nice office. Like, 'cause see, you started when like pretty much the office doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's
During
all remote
COVID.
now. It's all remote now. They got rid of the office. So, but it was it
Oh.
was it was in Hall Park in Frisco. So it was right across from the Cowboys training facility in the Star.
Mhm.
So
Gotcha. Yeah, that was definitely like one of the like best experiences I had. Probably after my internship was probably like the best experience I had. Definitely like helped me learn a bunch of skills. Which brings me to a question that someone just asked. So this person asked, "How do you feel about working in a SOC?"
I like it. I think it's beneficial, and it depends on your sock. Like for example, you have a regular sock. You have like three different socks: a good sock, a MSS sock, and then what you now have teams moving to are fire teams, to where there is like it's the sock and IR together. Ideally, the best sock you would want to work in is the one with the IR to it, because then now you're learning how to run an incident, by yourself from start to finish, opposed to just doing everything and then handing it to the IR team. Right before I stopped working at Optiv, that was like the next phase of like we really had built a good relationship with that IR team, to where we're about to be looped in to do more with them.
Yeah.
A lot of people will probably say so about a SOC if it's an MSS SOC, or now what they're doing now is they're putting SOC analysts on the role, but it's really like a help desk role because by the pay. So if the pay is a certain amount, then you could tell like the SOC isn't going to be that good of a role, because
Mhm.
typically at a SOC you learn so many different things, you get introduced in so many different tools, and that's the benefit of SOC. So you could do it and say, hey, you know what? I just want to be an engineer. I want to work with Sims. Oh, I want to just work on CrowdStrike. I need some CrowdStrike training. I just want to administer CrowdStrike to help, with our CrowdStrike detections. Like that's how like the SOC that we had at Optiv, like we had all these different tools that we had access to, but you could go actually work on those. And like one of the guys that used to be a SOC analyst for me is now an engineer. I think he's working on either QRadar or another tool that they have. But
Mhm.
that's one of the benefits of it. And you get to see the benefit of like what you do at a lower level, because we hear about all these different breaches company have now. Who do you think was the first person to see those alerts, or didn't see the alerts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're that first, like the
First
first
line
level
of
of
defense.
response.
Yeah.
And I wish I could tell you guys like who our client was, but also if you like, you can internally, it's cool because you're helping the company still make money. But if you're
Yeah.
supporting a big client, it made it better for us. Because like, hey, these people can still go do what they want to do because we're doing our job.
Yeah.
And so we never really had no problems. We get, legend has it, to this day, that was the best team that they assembled, even
Yeah,
though most of us aren't on that team anymore.
yeah. Not definitely. That was definitely. I mean, even before I got there, like definitely like a pretty strong team. Like we were imperfect, but like we're definitely like a pretty strong team.
Man, you
And I
should have
guess
seen.
also,
I was gonna say you should have seen when we started, man. What we had to work with. Like I
yeah,
put in one of the episodes of like how the client made us go through like 10 playbooks and what we would do for these rules when they fired.
right,
And when I tell you we was pissed off when we seen the actual playbooks they had on what was going on, like we went super in depth, bro. Like we really were going start to finish. Like we was going SOC and IR wise when it
yeah,
came to that. But it also showed the level that you actually need to be successful in a SOC role. Like I tell
hmm,
people a lot the reason why if you don't have certain level of experience, I steered them away from going SOC because I was like super competitive. And being a SOC analyst requires you to know so many different things
yeah,
that if they just don't like you and say you think see the potential you have in you, you may not get it because there have been times where we have people who can't catch on and you spend a lot of your time trying to help them and it
yeah,
slows you down.
yeah,
And people don't like that. And people don't understand in the SOC, you're getting log ingestion is increasing like every day. So sometimes you're starting to get more and more logs and more alerts. I don't have
yeah,
time to come show you something that you should already know.
yeah,
So that's why SOC roles technically sometimes aren't truly entry level.
yeah. Yeah, I think like that was something that when I first joined, I was like, and like I kind of got thrown into the water when I first joined, because like I was like I just like it was like a week or two, and then you went on vacation as well, right? So like
Yeah.
I was pretty much on my own. Like I had to like triage all these alerts, like without with almost no help, but like definitely was able to like catch up pretty fast. But I was like, wait, no one's gonna help me,
Hmm.
and I was a little like yeah, I just had to like adapt really fast back then. But like, if I wasn't able to like pick things up fast, I would definitely have drowned because like it's definitely fast paced, and like no one's really gonna just like constantly sit down and like kind of help you just like digest a lot of things because like everyone has their own part to play, right? If you're on shift, like you're expected to like be picking up alerts as they come, and like you said, like we were monitoring like a really large environment, like
Yeah.
a multi-continent environment, right? So like it's nonstop response, right? So
Yeah. UK,
it's
APAC, EMEA.
yes, everywhere. So you either sink or swim. So, but definitely like one of the best experiences for me. But aside from that, another thing too that we have both in common is like um, our online presence, right? So with YouTube, LinkedIn, with your new course, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. How has that been? Like, what was the journey to starting that, and also growing that, and also what opportunities and benefits that has presented to you in your career, either professionally and also outside of your professional career.
Yeah, man. Good question. What started it? What sparked it was the fact that my oldest daughter was going to be born or was already born. So yeah, during COVID, she was born in May of 2020, and so at that time, I was thinking, what else extra can I do or whatever? I got another kid, I got another mouth to feed. How can I make more money? Um, so it's like, okay, so let's start with the brand, and then I started doing my coaching stuff or whatever, my YouTube stuff, because I had already been doing it. What people don't know before you even check out my channel now, prior to that, for like 2 years, I had been covering boxing. So that's why I'm like, YouTube isn't that hard for me because I was already doing it. I made so many mistakes already on the last channel. And I was like, this is taking a lot of my time. It's not beneficial for me. Let me switch it to something I'm actually passionate about, what I like doing. So I've always like helping people. I like making content. I've always been a person that love like music, creating, anything. For y'all that know Day, Day's a musician. I'm a former musician. I'm so busy I can't really play and stuff like that. But I enjoy all that stuff. So I took it to LinkedIn, started branding myself more and more, and it just started really taking off for me to like, for example, the last role I had, that when I left Optiv, I didn't apply to that. They reached out to me from my LinkedIn, and that's why I always tell people like your LinkedIn needs to be relative, have your updated skills, you need to be visible, you need to market yourself. You
Yeah,
know, you have to treat your career like and for y'all single people, whatever you're using, whether you're using Bumble, Hinge, or Tinder, like your profile matters. Like how it is to get swiped. Oh, you matched. Like it's kind of like how it is when it goes to sourcing. Like they're sourcing your skills. So if you're not making your online presence look good, it's going to be hard to go to that next level. And like from 2020 to now, like I think I've doubled what I was making back then, just from getting, increases here and there, but also going to different roles and learning different things, getting different skill sets. But, marketing, if I was quiet and just, put my head down, I would get nowhere. Like what people don't know is kind of like before I left the old company, when I think they were still there. Like they was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can possibly, hey, take this team over. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to at the time. I think it would have been tough to get them to do what I needed them to do. I would rather start with a fresh crew. But I think that's been the purpose of it. Like, and this got me so many. Like, I've built okay. Here's the key. And we talk about networks. I've talked about this in my videos. Dave's talked about it, but networks are so important. Like, think about this. There's a stat I think I have in my ebook, and you can look it up somewhere about like jobs that are actually posted online versus like how they are filled, via referrals or internally. That's why
Hmm.
your network is so important. Like I already knew, like when we had the 3 openings open, that I wanted to bring Day in. I already knew my credibility was good. I had already had, besides me, Tay worked with us before. My guy Pat, we were all good analysts. So if I said Day was good, I mean, of course I had to interview him, but it was like kind of good as there. But just think about that. There's so many different roles that you're trying to claw your way to. Whereas if you had a relationship with somebody at one of the roles you want, the companies you want, it's even
Hmm.
easier for you if people already know. Let's say, for instance, like, and I'll bring up, LinkedIn again. I'm really big on people trying to get recommendations on their page. So now you go on my page, you see like my former manager, who's a director now, has, a lot of me praise, and other managers, a lot of me praise. You see that as a hiring manager or a recruiter, whatever, and it helps you out. But I've built a really big network now to where I have some people that work at some very big companies now. So to where if I see something I like, I can say, hey, I like this role. Can you refer me? Can you put me in contact with somebody on the team? And I chop it up with them, like, ask them for some coffee or something. Like I've heard that advice given out before, and buy them some coffee and we talk and chat. And I can't talk about some other things, but that presence is big. Like I've interviewed times where, I've talked to somebody, they say, yeah, I looked you up. I listened to some of your podcast stuff, or I watched some of your videos. It's pretty good. So another part of that branding yourself and that content part of writing documentation is somebody gets a sense for your personality, how you
Hmm.
talk, interact with people, how you write, your writing style. So all those things come to play is where they don't have to ask all these questions or asking about, this because they've seen it on display. I have
Yeah.
2 years worth of videos out now, or however many hours of content that you can go back and just listen to, and me
Hmm.
being consistent of, my thoughts on everything.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, I think that's another thing is also like, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's like when people already kind of have a sense of familiarity with you
mhm.
online, like they kind of know like your personality, like who you are, whether it be through video or through like your writing or like your online presence. It's a lot easier sometimes for them to warm up to you than someone who they're just meeting like fresh, right? It's like if I've watched your video and like I kind of see your countenance, your candor, I'm like, okay, he's kind of like a chill person, right? So it's a lot easier to like break the ice, quote unquote, right? But if like you're someone I've never met before, like I don't know much about you, like I've never like someone you're just meeting like cold, right? It's a lot. There's a lot more
Yep.
ice to break than the other person. So I definitely like typically again, it's not for everyone. Like making YouTube videos or stuff like that's not for everyone, but
Right.
at least like something like a blog or something similar, right, to get your name out there, get your work out there, not just like doing stuff in a silo. Like do stuff and share it out there, like let people see what you're capable of doing, what your knowledge is, and like that way it gives them a feel of like what you're capable of doing, and also your passion for this stuff as well.
Right. And I'll just add in like you don't have to start a blog, right? Some people I work with, I could tell they're very introverted just from us talking. I say, look, this may be hard for you. So I say, we'll push for maybe one meaningful post, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once every week. And I was like, you don't even have to write it then. You can schedule these, out with a tool like Buffer or what is it? Hootsuite or whatever it's called. What these different tools, Radar,
Yeah.
Social Bee, any of these tools, you can just schedule your stuff out. So, all the anxiety or something like that, you can get out of the way. You can use whatever you use to check your grammar and just send it off. And eventually that's just one way of like just getting you out there. But let's think of like this. You say, and this is for my pivoting people, you want to go get a cybersecurity role, whatever the role may be. You apply, then a recruiter looks at your profile, but you're not posting about, anything cybersecurity. Like you're not sharing any articles. You're not talking about some of the stuff you learn or what you're learning. It's nothing there. On top of maybe your resume in the greatest. What do you think is possibly going to happen? You think you're going to get a call back, or you might just go ahead and get an automatic rejection?
Mm,
Or I teach people to be proactive sometimes and just, you reach out to the recruiter.
hmm
They may look at your profile, might not like it. It's like, I don't know, like, look what you gave me and then look what I see. Why should, I waste time talking to you? So it's that important too. Like I said, I treat all this stuff like relationships. And you're gonna laugh at it, but that's all working in corporate America is like a big relationship. Like treat it like
yeah.
you're dating, not married. Because married, it's different. Treat it like
Yeah.
you're dating.
Got you. So after this, we'll look at some questions in the chat. But I also wanted to talk about your LinkedIn course because like it's recent, and I think like it's gonna be valuable to people who are trying to like advance their cybersecurity career. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's titled Advanced Cybersecurity Career, just for SEO purposes. But if any part, like you can put it in any aspect of your career and it'll help you. And it's just actionable steps that I've learned throughout my career. Like he talked about, like kind of coming in and making a change, or seeing, hey, why am I getting callbacks? Like typical advice that I've probably given people that are trying to pivot or trying to get to a new level is the same type of advice that I give in that course. And it's very actionable, it's very, relatable content. I bring up all the different type of references. I start off references about myself. I might throw in like some anime jokes or whatever, but it's a short and sweet course, and it's just meant to be very high level and to pretty much get you to understand, what can I do? Like I've like some of the things I've said on the course I've mentioned in interviews, and they've been like, oh yeah, how do we, I've mentioned KPIs to an interviewer before and asked them about, how I can help them figure out, hey, if your analysts are getting fatigued, or how do we show sales we need more headcount, or HR we need more headcount. Like I've said those things. So these are things that I know work, because these, as small as it may be to you, those are very important metrics that upper management cares about. And at the time, we also used to share with our client
Hmm.
about why that's important. How long a ticket stays open, how long it takes to find an asset,
Yeah.
um, how long it takes to get somebody on the line if we had a real incident. Like all those
Hmm.
different things really matter. So the course is cool. I can't remember who pitched me, but might have been, I think it might have been AJ. I think shout out to AJ Young, because he has a course on LinkedIn Learning as well. And we just been working on this all year, and it dropped last month. So yeah, y'all
Hmm.
support that for me, and I have hopefully some more good stuff coming out next year.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. I will drop it in the chat right now. But definitely recommend that course. Like it's like practical advice and like things that actually work from his own experience and things that have helped him with people who he has worked with, and help them break into cybersecurity and of course advance their cybersecurity career. But let's get into some questions in the chat and I'm just gonna
Okay.
answer them. So this one is, which would be more beneficial for first cyber role? A, join an organization as a security analyst to directly improve their posture, versus B, an opportunity to work in a SOC tier one.
Um, I don't know, because I mean, I guess it depends on what you want out of your career. So that's how you define what would be more beneficial, your long term goals, right? And that's one of the things also when you're interviewing for different roles, it's like, how's this, match up with what I want to do long term? If it doesn't, then it may not be beneficial for you. How much does the company actually care about the role you're going to do? Like, is it important, or just a role that exists that nobody knows about? Like, and you can ask those questions to an interviewer, like, hey, why is this role open? What are the current problems we're facing? All those different things like matter when you're interviewing them. Because see, let me go back. Security, and then also, I'm glad you actually pointed this out. You said the security analyst or SOC tier one. I just made a post about this on LinkedIn about how sometimes people say they want to be a security analyst, but they don't know what type of security analyst they want to be, because so
Mhm.
many different roles can fall on the security analyst. Like if you don't believe me, just go Google it, type in security analyst, and see how the roles differ between organization. So that's an
Right.
interesting point to say, would you be a security analyst or SOC tier one? So I don't know. Like I enjoy SOC work. I'm like, I like SOC work is interesting. It's busy. It's always something new. You get to deal with the stuff that you're seeing being reported on like a bleeping computer, careers on security, the NIST news, like all those different things. You're dealing with those along with like your vulnerability management team and assist admins. Like, y'all in the trenches, y'all are having fun.
Yeah.
Now with the security analyst role, sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's less technical. So I think it just depends. Like I said, I'll just sum up again based on what you want to do. Hopefully that was a good answer for you.
Gotcha. Cool. Next question is, how do you deal with an environment where documentation is not as important or emphasized and only relies in institutional knowledge?
That's a dangerous organization. I know people that work in orgs like that where they try to blame somebody for messing up for something, but it's like, well, this is what documentation says or the lack thereof. I would say everything you do that there's not documentation on, you make it yourself, regardless if they're not telling you information, you go search it out and you compile it and you just start have this documentation, together and present it hopefully to your manager or somebody that's over you, and you start making all the new processes. Or if it's something else, like if you have to go reach out to a different team, you can learn a whole different process by documenting it, and you just learn a new skill set. So that's also one of the things I talk about in the advanced cybersecurity career is like how to pivot. That's one of the ways as well. It's like working with different teams, volunteering to do documentation because people don't like, believe it or not, people hate doing documentation.
Facts.
I don't care how simple it is. So if you do one or two things, you document it. And like for me, I'll try to introduce Loom video into organizations to where you can record step by step what to do. Put that on the documentation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we had that. You did that for like some like intro to like Trend Micro, like some Splunk stuff, some like Phantom stuff. I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I think adding videos like it's definitely a nice like twist to it. It gives like more personality to the documentation. So
yeah, because people learn differently. I mean, sometimes what I don't like about documentation, sometimes it's too long.
Yeah.
It's just too long and you get lost in the sauce. You're trying to go back up. It's like, man, at least break this down into parts or whatever.
Yeah, true. Cool. Next question is, what's the best and simple way to get into a cybersecurity career?
Just depends. What are your skill sets? What type of role? Okay, so the biggest thing that I tell people is like, what do you want to do in cybersecurity? Like cybersecurity is a big umbrella like this, and you got different roles that fall up under it. So you need to research, hey, what would I like to do first? Then you need to figure out what skills I need to do that and who does that.
Yeah.
So you can get that information from them. And that's when you just start working on your skill set yourself to where you can start applying for those roles. That's like a simple way of just a defined path on how to get there versus just trying to apply to like cybersecurity engineer or whatever it is, but you didn't work on the skills for that specific role.
Right. Got you. Cool. Next question is, I'm currently a software dev looking to get into pentesting. Any advice on where to start?
I mean, honestly, to be honest, a lot of security jobs are looking for people that already know how to code and do software stuff. So
that's true.
I mean, you're kind of right there already. I mean, I would just say the same advice I gave because they're always like, you'll be surprised. You look at these roles now, it's like, hold on, do they want a cybersecurity engineer or a software, engineer? And you're like, it's no way possible. Like some of the things that they want, it's impossible to know. Like they're asking for two roles in one. So I would say anybody's doing anything with software development or engineering, like you can get in cybersecurity easily. And I would say don't just unless like you probably could develop some type of software that like does like some penetration testing, but you can also look at detection and engineering. You got the skill set for those roles already. You just got to learn about security context and whatever you're going to be working on, what you're looking for. That's really how it goes. Like, kind of just got to research it. Like, you already got the skills, you got to figure out what you're looking for when it comes to detection and engineering.
No, definitely. I think like people who do software engineering like are like people who have coding skill sets are definitely great assets to their team because they can help with like automation, writing tests for like detection, stuff like that. Like building out different things for like detection pipelines. So like I think detection engineer is definitely one that's good because like a lot of the skill sets that come with like software engineering,
they can get into SOAR.
Yeah, like automation. That's kind of part of it as well. Like so, like And matter of fact, like even and I know you're asking specifically about pen testing, but there's also things like you could do stuff like actually working on a software development team for a security product or supporting a security team, right? So there's a bunch of like security teams that have sister software development or sister software engineering teams that do like a lot of coding and development support for those actual security teams for them. That's another way. You can also like build security products. So like work for a company that develops security product. That's another way, right? So those skills are applicable even as a pen tester. Like I know that software engineering and development skills could be like helpful for like exploit development or maybe even malware analysis as well, right? Because like all of those things are like um, you know programming or coding related. But as someone who hasn't worked in a pen testing capacity, right, I can't give too much information about pen
Right.
testing specifically. But in other things that I know and have experience with, I can definitely tell you about that.
Yeah, they should watch my podcast episode I did with Xavier on him hacking the MacBook at the hackathon. Like they probably would fit into what he did in his path and run his own company and doing all these other things.
Yeah,
That would be a good video for you to watch. That probably give you some inspiration. So watch that podcast episode of my channel. He hacked the MacBook at the hackathon.
yeah. I'm trying to find that video now. But if you got a video, just like drop the link in the
I,
chat.
I could find it for you. It's pretty easy for me. I can just type in
Gotcha.
textual hackathon.
Yeah. But another question is almost every cybersecurity channel mentions learning Linux, but to what level? Um, I think like learning Linux, like there's different levels to it, right? So there's learning Linux enough to understand like the command line and being able to like move around, do like simple administrative tasks. Like that's one level to it, right? But there's also learning Linux to the level of like forensics and like Linux threats and vulnerabilities and like exploits and privilege escalation stuff like that. So I think start with learning the basics, right? Learning how to like move around the Linux command line, do simple administrative tasks because like those are things you might be doing on your day to day. But like if you're going to be someone who is maybe going to be analyzing Linux environments or building detections for Linux environments, you might want to learn more about like Linux exploits, privilege escalation, threats and stuff like that. Because like there's those are different dimensions. It's like one dimension is learning Linux enough to be able to like use it for certain things, but another dimension is learning Linux enough to be able to like identify threats, detect threats, and also probably remediate threats, do forensics in the Linux system. So that's kind of my recommendation on that.
Yeah, I would just add, honestly, I mean, I really don't have much to add to what you say. I would just say you could approach learning Linux like you approach learning different cloud environments like AWS, Azure, GCP are pretty much different but similar. They just got different naming conventions and slightly some different services and how they work.
Mhm.
That's pretty much how it is with Windows and Linux, Unix, whatever operating system you want to think of, to where like event IDs may be different, or you got a PID, or
Mhm.
what it may call like you talking about root or the different ways you look for password. Like it serves some nuances in that, but if you
Yeah.
have like it's just a basis understanding of it, you should be fine. You can always build upon that skill set.
Yes. Yes. Like that's I think that's another thing. Like you don't have to learn everything at once. Like you have enough time over your career to build these skill sets over and over and become better at these things, right? At each point you get to in your career. So next question is from Athena. What's up, Athena? What do you think about DevSecOps?
DevSecOps is the wave. And shout out to my guy Damian Burks. We actually did an episode on DevOps, and he's a cloud engineer now. So we just talked about the importance
I'll
of
drop it in the
DevOps.
chat now.
Yeah, and why DevSecOps is so important. That's why I say like a lot of my DevOps people that I talk to say, hey, you already got these other skills. Like you could just add the sec part and you're straight. But you see so many roles for DevSecOps right now. Like
Mm,
I don't know what your experience level is like in your career now, but like DevSecOps is huge, especially for cloud. Like, and I think as time goes on, like the requirements for cloud technology will kind of be a little laxum. Because I think even right now for cloud roles, they don't know what they want because it's still fairly new. Like I know everybody just thinks, cloud has been around, but not really. Like I stated, when I started, like it was no cloud. Cloud really became more popular probably like in the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm,
to be honest. So it's gonna get, a little bit more normalized until we start moving on to some of these other things that cloud will branch off of.
right. Personally, I feel like DevSecOps is like less of less of like a role and more of like practices
Right.
that are being applied for different things, right? So like with everything like shifting left, right? Like being knowledgeable about those practices and those things in DevOps, and then being able to like understand like the security implications and security things that are needed for those practices is what I think DevOps comprises. DevSecOps comprises. So like thinking about, let's say, like um, pipelines, right? Code pipelines, right? So like what could be a potential like practice for like code pipelines that might be like DevSecOps related? Maybe scanning your commits for secrets that your developers might have hard coded into the code, or scanning like containers that are being used for like different builds and deployments for vulnerabilities, right? New like images that that are more updated and don't have previous vulnerabilities and stuff like that. Like several things like that. Those are things that are DevSecOps. So like a security engineer who might not have a DevSecOps title might be using different DevSecOps practices, right? Or even like different things like that. So I think it's more of practice and more of the practice and like the different elements in the practice that makes it DevSecOps rather than someone who is like a DevSecOps engineer, which I do think is there are roles out there like that, but I think more than it being a role is more of it being a practice. Let's see, what's the next question? Um, any interview prep advice and recommendations? I think it's a good one for you.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's kind of like you want to treat your interviews. Remember, I said everything's like dating. Treat your interviews a little bit about like dates. Smile nice, have on something decent, have some good lighting. But also, here's a key, and it's, I mean, fairly simple, but research the company, see what new things they have in the news, see what new products they're working on. So you can just start bringing some of those things up in the interview, kind of like show your enthusiasm for the role. I did this, and it's worked out fantastically to where you can kind of understand why they're going a certain way with a product, and what they plan to do with it, and how it can be beneficial from your own eyes and from your experience. But that's just one thing. You want to, hopefully, if you feel familiar with the role, which is kind of hard. It's like kind of want to have the easy stuff, like to tell me about yourself. They always ask that, kind of like short and sweet to the point, to where you kind of just introduce yourself, who you are, years of experience, like what you're currently been working on, what's your current day to day, and then kind of go from there. Ask questions. I always tell people this, but if you want to take the one tip away from me, is have a notebook when you interview. Uh, Take notes. It's gonna show you came prepared.
Yeah,
Also, you can, like, for scenario questions, you can't see it, but I have like this whiteboard back here that I use. Like if they ask a scenario question, or I put it in here to where if I need to formulate my thoughts, I'm writing it down so I can give you like a concise and good answer, right?
yeah,
But for the most part, I think one of the more important advices is actually interviewing them, right? So, like I said, what type of problems are they facing? How can I make my manager's job easier? Or if that's the manager you interview, how do I make your job easier? I always like to ask, how do I stack up versus the rest of the applicants? That's a really good one because you want to show self awareness, right?
hmm,
You can ask them, hey, how does my skill set compare to the others? And, are there any things, that you have questions about, my experience in doing this role? And they'll tell you right there. And if they do, that's when you kind of get them to change their mind about you. And you say, well, I can do this, this, and this. And I'm trying to see what's another one I ask. Oh, I always ask, like, how will success be measured in this role? What is expected out of me in the first 90 days? So those questions are important because a lot of times people just interview and don't interview them, right? You can ask about how work culture is, right? What do they expect out of you?
yeah,
All those different things matter because I'm telling you, man, you can get an interview one way, and then when you get there, absolutely hate it.
hmm, yeah. No, I think that's all valuable advice. I made a video in the past about how interviewing and stuff like that. So if I can find it, I'll drop it in the chat. But
Yeah.
definitely good advice.
I think I had one. Well, that's kind of like the one I made. What's that, last year or this year? I can't remember, man. I'm not gonna lie. When you start doing all these videos
Yeah,
and doing crap, it seems like it doesn't even seem like me and you kicked off like the podcast like in early 2021. It felt like 2020.
yeah. Like I don't know. Like time just goes by fast, and then you look back and you realize like, wait, it's been this long since that happened, and
Mhm.
like it just like brings a lot of stuff into perspective. But next question here is what are your thoughts on cloud computing as a career? Like you said, it's fairly new.
Yeah,
Um,
we kind of covered that briefly already, but I mean, it's a good career because believe it or not, a lot of companies are not in the cloud. So some people still have a lot of stuff on prem, for good reasons. But at the end of the day, keep on learning because eventually stuff will be off prem and cloud. Like what Day does, like right, builds detections like just for the cloud stuff.
yeah,
That's a big thing. Those things aren't like it's not a lot of stuff going on. You see more and more things coming out. Like they have like I think what Sam's got the cert out that's just dedicated to the cloud. I think too.
yeah. They have like a whole slew now. Like I think 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, so I would say cloud is beneficial. It definitely is. It's what did somebody say like those jokes about the cloud? The cloud ain't nothing but somebody else's
That's
computer or
somebody else's
something.
computer.
uh,
Yeah.
like but nah, so many see, and the reason why I encourage like for people to like not try to skip over the foundational like practitioner or AZ900 or whatever GCP stuff is because you get introduced to all the different services.
Mhm.
And the thing I like about the cloud certs versus other certs is most of the cloud courses come with these labs you can do while you learn in the cloud.
Mhm.
So not only are you learning, but you're also performing some tasks that you may perform if you get a job like that. And where you say, oh, you know what? I just want to learn how to work what's it, MongoDB or Amazon or thing or whatever these databases or crap are, right? You must say, I just
Right.
want to do databases in the cloud. And you can niche down into that. Or you can say, hey, I just want to do identity and access management or AWS.
Mhm.
You can
Mhm.
niche down right into that. So that's why it's so important to not skip, like go and kind of just stay right there, learn and figure out what you want to learn. That's what the benefit of foundational certs are. So that's why I think I like the provider certs versus vendor certs. It's or you could now, and some vendor certs are gatekeep. Like I would love to try to help people get a CrowdStrike
CrowdStrike.
certification,
Yeah.
Sentinel One, Carbon Black,
Yeah.
Tanium, but it's hard to get those. But if
Yeah.
if I could show you, I would. But they kind of gatekeep those to people who use their services.
Yeah. I think it's kind of more because they want to cater more towards like organizations than individuals. Because that way they can make more money from organizations than they can from like individuals, right? They can charge an organization like a bunch of like thousands of dollars for training than an individual.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the test is just the normal amount. Any else is like $200. Like and their questions aren't that hard, right?
Yeah.
All you need, like, so the difference in, I mean, it's like a conspiracy theory or whatever, but if you have those certs, and you know how to move around the console, like you could go work somewhere and just doing CrowdStrike stuff. Like
Yeah.
no lie, CrowdStrike console a little bit when you open up some of the search results, looks like Splunk.
Yeah. They have a really nice integration and partnership with Splunk. So there's like
Hmm.
stuff like that in there. But we'll answer like 2 more questions and then we'll head out. All right. It's actually a really interesting question. So thoughts on job hopping versus growing in a company, and how long do you recommend to stay at a job depending on the role?
Good question. It's gonna go back to two things: long term goals. I get a little tongue tied sometimes when I talk too fast,
Yeah.
and money. So if your goal is to make a lot of money fast, just job hop, right? But the only thing is like you can do that, but are you job hopping into roles that are better than the last one?
Mm,
So I would say if you learn all you could from the last one and you have a way to elevate your role, job hop
yeah.
like that, you'll get paid more and be more beneficial to you. As
Right.
far as long as you should stay, it just depends. I mean, if you want to stay 6 months, cool. Stay a year, cool. 2 years, cool. I mean, honestly, unpopular opinion, the moment you feel the job isn't for you, leave. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but uh, like I mentioned earlier, if you find a job doesn't match up with your long term goals, you could probably doing yourself a more detriment than you are. Like, for example, I've been in roles where, hey, what I used to do, my skills have deteriorated because I no longer do it. So it's like, why stay in that role that long for
Right.
wait a year to probably try to move around internally when now you've lost all the momentum you had. Whereas you can say, you know what, 2 months in, this is not going to cut it. It's totally different from what I was expecting. Let me look elsewhere just because I need to get sharp. And the gains of corporate America is, yeah, you can stay there a year and say they're going to move you internally just for them to say, oh, you got to wait till they hire somebody for your role, which could take two,
Yeah.
3 months. Now you're 15, 16 months in and you're already, no, just do what's best for you always. That's what I'm
Right.
going to say. Do what's best for you.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. I can't really talk much on job hopping right now because like my experience with it is like kind of weird. And I'm still very early in my career to like really give you good advice on that because my situation might not apply to most. So like I don't want to really give advice on that quite yet. Maybe later in the
Yeah.
future.
Well, I mean, even you, like yours was all in the right direction.
True.
You didn't really job hop. Like, and the one thing, shout out to Ashley. I don't know, Ashley, I shared this on my LinkedIn, but shout out to Ashley. Ashley has always been like one of the realest like managers like ever. Like she's always told everybody, like, I don't expect people to be on my team all the time. So
Mm,
if you tell her you're leaving, she's never gonna be mad about like somebody leaving. She expects people to go do good in their career.
yeah.
And
Which is
so
good.
right. And it's rare you have managers like that. I ran into times where people feel like you should be grateful you were hired. How could you lead their company? So
Hmm. Hmm.
it's it's different. I just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. We'll answer this last question and then we'll round it up. But so this person is saying transitioning out of the army after 8 years. Thank you for your service. As being a network administrator, and I would like to transition into cyber. Should I start with SOC or GRC roles for my internship?
My question would be, why go for an internship if you already got the skills doing network administration? I mean, honestly, I would focus on what you liked about network administration and see if you can find those in different roles. It don't necessarily have to be SOC or GRC. Like,
Mm,
do you want to stay super technical, or what do you want to do? I think that's what I'll go into because, like, you could do. I always like tell people, like, we'll look at their skill set. I say, man, you can start doing vulnerability management. Which is, they pay money. Like, people don't think about, like, vulnerability management is kind of like fairly simple, but it pays a lot of money because they need it. Everybody don't know how to work Qualys or Nessus or Rapid7,
right.
and you could just do that all day. Like the reports, the write ups, whatever you got to do.
Hmm.
There are like many like different things out there. So I don't want you to just limit yourself to soccer GRC because if you're at 8 years, well, I don't know how many years you've been doing network administration, so we got to go into that. And then you said transitioning. Xavier, you should watch my episode that I did one with Jennifer Jordan. I forgot what episode that one is. And the one I did with AJ Young, because AJ Young is the owner of Bite Check, but he used to be in the military. And he was talking about how I think he got himself like 15 or 18 months to transition to get his certifications and all this other stuff to where he had like whatever job once he got out.
Mm,
Um, I can't even remember what the name of that role. I mean, not the role, the episode is, but those would be good episodes for you to watch for people that were in the military before to kind of give you a path on like how you should approach this. Because your benefit is that you have way more resources than anybody else as far
mm,
as when it comes to getting things paid for
mm.
and experience. And
Yeah.
companies, they have companies have these programs just for people transitioning out of military where you can work with them. I have to find that, or you can. I'm gonna put my probably my textual chatter, I mean textual talk playlist just in the chat. That way
Yeah.
people can they can see that. So let me do
No,
that
yeah.
real quick.
No, I think that definitely be valuable because I haven't had those conversations and I haven't dealt with that before. So like I do think it's like if you have like that many years of experience in network administration from the military, like probably might not want to be looking for internships, maybe some um, adjacent cybersecurity roles. But definitely great advice from HD. But that's all the questions we had. This is gonna be available at the end, so I will cut out some parts for the replay, but we should be all good afterwards. But thank you so much, HD,
I
for
just posted that link for them. So let me see if they can get that real quick.
you put it in the chat.
Yeah, I put it in the chat. It should show up
Mm,
soon.
I don't see it
I
in the
didn't put
chat.
it in your chat. I put it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, still it hasn't showed up in the YouTube chat yet.
Let me see. I don't know. It didn't show up like it's a link, which was weird.
Mm,
Maybe it's. I know why I didn't show up as a link.
Or you can drop it in our chat, and I'll just put it in the chat
Yeah,
for them.
yeah. Let's see real quick for
Or I can
him.
just find it on your channel.
It's just my. It's honestly, it's just my playlist. Like it's just a playlist to the textual talk.
Got you.
Or they can go to this.
Playlist to the textual.
Or they can
Talk.
listen through the
Yeah,
textualtalk.com.
cool. I just dropped it in the chat. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely check that out. And the chat is going to be available for replay, so in case you miss it before we go off. But shout out to you, man, for coming to the live. This is the first time having you on my channel, even after you've had me on your channel like multiple times. So it's definitely great to have you on here. I really like appreciate your perspective on all of these different things, because I think it's great to have someone with your perspective and experience kind of share your experience, both in your career as well as when you're also helping other people build their careers as well. So thank you so much for everything. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we end the stream?
Yeah, man. Just appreciate you for having me. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. You can just click on my profile. You can see all the links to stay in contact with me, and just be on the lookout for some things that I have coming in the future. And you guys heard it here first. The next time you probably see me and Day on screen, we're gonna work on some type of in-person collab. Because
Yeah.
that's what the world needs right now at this point. So that's what we're gonna work on.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll leave all your links in the description. Follow him on IG and Twitter at the Textual Chatter. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at the Textual Chat. The Textual Chatter, and his website is also going to be there. The LinkedIn course is also going to be there. So everything you need is going to be in the description. But thanks for hopping on the stream, and thanks to you guys for also listening to us talk these last few hours. I'll see you guys in the next video.